Alrighty. Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Pitstop Power Hour presented by Race 92, where we bring you up to speed on everything that is anything in the motorsports universe. I am your host, Jacob Smith, and joining me to my right is your co-host, Calvin Veen.
Hello.
To my left is the one, the only, Aaron McAtee.
Hi.
How you guys doing?
I'm
Fantastic.
good. How are you guys?
So we're recording this right after Christmas. I'm a little bit bloated. I'm a little bit over-caloried, a little too much rich food and drink, but it's been a great holiday season. Did Santa bring you guys anything good this year?
Aaron, how about you?
Money and some Indycar diecast, and that was about it.
Nice. What about you?
Santa dropped a couple of those off at our house too, and we got some new camera equipment, some toys and things. So
Sweet.
how about you?
So I'd say Santa brought me a tablet, which next week we're probably going to use. So as you can see, those of you watching on YouTube, our table is completely covered by laptops. So that'll definitely help with keeping stuff more portable for this show. And he also brought me a new watch, which is pretty nice. So thank you so much, Santa. You are the best.
You know what else he brought for Christmas this year?
A new podcast.
A new podcast.
The Pitstop Power Hour presented by Race 92. Like I said, this is our first episode. We figured, what better time of the year to launch a whole new racing podcast? It's such a slow time of year with the holidays and stuff going on. And there's nothing to really talk about in the motorsports world because everything's in the off season. Why not launch a brand new motorsports related podcast?
Yeah, maybe just to start the podcast off, why don't we jump into what little news there has been in this last week or so?
And that's our news for the week.
Hey, there's been a couple things going on.
All right.
I think the first big set of news happened in the last couple weeks. Sergio Perez has been signed to Red Bull, replacing Alex Albon. Perez teaming with Max Verstappen.
Cool.
I think everybody saw that coming a little bit. Albon had been in trouble for most of the year. I think it's a good choice. Perez has been a strong contender. And yeah, it should be interesting to see 2021 how he does.
That's no surprise there, especially with what was Albon? He got at least a podium, right?
He got like 2 or 3 podiums this year, I think 2.
Mm-hmm.
But he did that in the Red Bull when Verstappen was consistently second, third, couple victories. And the same way, Perez was punching above his weight and actually beating Albon in a lesser car on most weekends.
One thing I've always wondered, what would happen if you took Verstappen and you put him in Albon's car and you switched it around?
I think the case is that the car is designed to Verstappen's driving style, and that gave Albon a hard time adjusting to. I know I've heard interviews from other F1 drivers where the car is designed for their superstar teammates, and they are told to just deal with it.
That would make sense.
Cool. So those of you, this is our first episode. I am not the F1 expert. Calvin is clearly the F1 guy. So anytime he talks about F1, I learn something new for each of these episodes. So I'm excited to learn more about F1 as we get into this podcast.
What are you expert in?
IndyCar and motocross.
And drinking.
I'm pretty good at that too. I can tie a few on sometimes.
Well, let's do some IndyCar news in there. Grand Prix of Long Beach, traditionally in mid to late April. They have already announced that it is moved to September.
I'm actually really excited because I would argue that the Grand Prix of Long Beach is the second biggest race on the IndyCar schedule.
Agreed.
And I think that ends the season with a bang. You kind of go big at the end of the season. And especially if there is like a tight points race for someone that's trying to win the championship, I think Long Beach is a great venue, a great setting, just a great environment to host that finale.
And it's a track where anything can happen. It's not predictable. It's not the Sonoma, Laguna Seca, where despite your best efforts, it's not always the most exciting, entertaining race. I think Long Beach will deliver that.
I think so too. And, this past season, ending the season at St. Petersburg ended up being a good idea. That's probably one of the most exciting street course races I've seen. Because when they have these races at the beginning of the year, it's usually just follow the leader. No one wants to make any big moves because, you have to worry about the points and the rest of the season. Whereas here, it's at the very end of the season. You've got nothing to lose. I mean, just go full send. It's the last opportunity to win the championship or advance in the championship, depending on where you're at in the points.
And I've been to Long Beach, and I would agree with Jacob. I mean, the pageantry there is pretty comparable to the Indy 500. Definitely second on the list. The fanfare, the amount of like vendors that are set up. I mean, it's a big deal.
So,
And I mean, basically the whole town is shut down for the race. So
what do you guys
Kind
think?
of like Indy.
And a road trip?
I hope so. Maybe all this podcast money we're going to make, it'll allow us to fly out to California. Maybe do an episode live at Long Beach.
Wait, you guys are getting paid?
Well, that's going to happen eventually. At least, all that Race 92 money we're making. But honestly, the more I think about Long Beach being the season finale, the more I think, why didn't they come up with this idea sooner? I think it's a no-brainer.
I think COVID has caused them to make new decisions that I think they will figure out are probably better in the long run, like that. And I believe the whole 4th of July weekend thing was part. No, I'm sorry. When they did the NASCAR with Indycar race.
Yeah, the doubleheader. That was 4th,
Yeah.
That was 4th of July.
That
weekend.
was the 4th of July
Was it?
weekend.
Yeah. And that was because that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for COVID, right?
No, I think the circumstances surrounding this year have caused everything we knew to be shaken up, torn apart, and it's given us a clean piece of paper. It's caused NASCAR to race on more of the Roval courses, and now their new calendar has more road
Which
courses.
some of those Roval races have been electric.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't normally pay too much attention to NASCAR, just me being more of an IndyCar fan, but I got to say, some of those NASCAR Roval races were really exciting.
It's also caused Formula One to visit some unique venues that we otherwise would never have gone to due to the political climate that is Formula One. So I think this is the chance that you can take and say, we've been doing this for years and it's worked okay, but if this is better, we're going to do the better one.
So yeah, I think kind of the phoenix that rises out of the ashes of the dumpster fire that was 2020. I think they have found some creative new ideas to kind of keep things interesting for the fans.
All right, and then I'll throw in one more piece of IndyCar news that is still in the rumor mill stage right now. But NBCSN, the TV cable home of IndyCar, is possibly going away. It doesn't mean IndyCar will not have a home, but is where within the NBC network will it go? NBCSN also has the rights to NASCAR. They've had their new streaming service, Peacock, which could be a location for these races. And what do you guys think?
It needs to stay on public television. That would be one of the worst moves that NBC could do, not just for themselves, but the entire sport of not just IndyCar, but as you mentioned, NASCAR as well. If they forced you past a paywall just to access a typical race.
Well, it's already behind some sort of paywall. You have to have a cable TV subscription to get to NBCSN. It's not all on the over-the-air antenna TV. And we were in the same position, 10 years ago when they started the contract with Versus and what became NBCSN.
Yeah, that was a really dark time for IndyCar TV coverage.
But it got us off ABC, which I think people would agree the coverage on Versus, even though harder to find, was maybe better than the ABC coverage at the same time.
Maybe marginally, but the fact that it's harder to access, that's kind of my biggest problem with it. And, I don't know about you guys, but I already have my Hulu subscription, my Netflix subscription, my Amazon Prime Video subscription. I can't afford to do a whole nother freaking, subscription just to watch my races, whether it's IndyCar, NASCAR, Formula One. There's a point where you just can't afford it.
You don't watch Formula One, remember?
But even if I wanted to, if I have to pay to watch it, that's certainly not going to get me interested to tune into it.
What I would do, I would put it back on ABC. I would bring back Wide World of Sports, and I would bring back Bobby Unser and Sam Posey. That's what I would do.
Yep.
And Jackie Stewart.
Like fine wine, they've only gotten better with age.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Jacob, you got to do the Bobby Unser impression as if you're talking to Sam Posey. Now, Sam, listen here.
No, hold on. I'm on the spot now, and this is our first inaugural recording of the podcast. Now, Sam, listen here. I'm Bobby Unser, and I'm the best. I don't know if that was a good impression, but that was
Wasn't
my
bad.
impression. So, I think it's a little too soon to kind of criticize NBC because we don't know what they're going to do.
Exactly.
I think
it's too
another
soon to
thing
tell.
too with this past season is they had more races on the regular NBC channel because they were trying to fill up space that otherwise would have been occupied with, say, like sports ball. So, I think that went over pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, we can't forget NBCSN admittedly didn't have much going on back in March and April, but they cleared TV time to broadcast the IndyCar iRacing League of all things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, is there may not be as many motocross fans listening to this podcast, but even the motocross series got TV exposure because of the way schedules have been moved around from the past year. And I think overall it went over pretty well. So, given all the bad stuff that happened this past year, I think there were some positive takeaways. And, we try to keep it positive over here at the Pitstop Power Hour. So we'll see what happens if NBC puts IndyCar behind a paywall. My opinion will change drastically from what I'm saying right now if they make such a move, because I'm already paying way too much in entertainment expenses.
Yeah, I think where I stand the whole thing, if I have to pay to watch my IndyCar races, I'd rather watch my IndyCar races than eat, and that's a choice I'm willing to make.
Well, it sucks, though, because now you can only watch IndyCar races, whereas before I could watch any kind of racing that's on TV. So that's kind of my biggest hang-up. That's my biggest concern, is that they're going to make it harder to access any kind of racing. So it'd be harder for, say, like IndyCar to get new fans to tune in if you have to pay all this extra freaking money to just watch a race, let alone qualifications or practices.
I just hope they never go to like World of Outlaws or like dirt racing. They use like Flow, and then World of Outlaws use something else. I forget what it's called. But basically, it's an online streaming thing, and you pay like a certain amount per month, and it's not on cable at all. So I don't think IndyCar will ever go there. But let's hope not.
Don't ever say never, Aaron. Be
I
careful with your
will
words.
say-
You better be knocking on Aaron. Knock on this wooden table
Is
right
this
now.
real wood?
It's real wood, and you'd better be knocking on
There
it.
may
That
be real
IndyCar
world
never
underneath
goes
the
to
nice
that.
veneer. Yeah, that's
But and to your point, Aaron, like that's the reason I don't watch World of Outlaws is I have to pay all this extra money to stream it.
You can still
I
go to
can't
the
just
races.
turn it on TV. Well, that's a different. We're talking about watching it on TV versus actually going to the race. That's a different thing, and I think I speak for everyone that I cannot wait to go back to a real race, like a live race.
I forgot what it felt like.
I think to close this one up, I'd say it's too early to tell. We can't get.
But NBC, be careful.
NBC has been a good partner for IndyCar for these last several years.
They've done a good job with the coverage.
They've been a good partner for motorsports with IMSA, with NASCAR, IndyCar, and the other properties they service. I think they would be hesitant to throw all that hard work and goodwill away just in the name of they might make a couple dollars more.
Well, I've also heard, none of this. I've heard that the NBC Sports Gold didn't go over as well as they would have been hoping for. So, I think most people would rather deal with the commercials, watching it on TV versus watching it on Gold. I actually do have the IndyCar pass and the motocross pass for NBC Sports Gold. Those are like my two biggest expenses for entertainment, outside my typical TV. So, I think with any race fan or sports fan, you kind of have to pick and choose what you want to watch, which sucks because that's not going to get you new fans.
And I think the powers that be are very aware of that. If they want to grow the sport, they need to be in front of eyeballs where they can be tuned into.
So the big question is NBC willing to help IndyCar grow their fan base?
They have been for the last 10 years. I do not see them going away.
I sure hope not.
No, I don't think they'll go anywhere. And they've brought on a lot of new people like Dale Jr., who've all done a great job. And they've really
Danica
expanded.
for the 500
Danica
as well.
for the 500.
Yeah, Danica's actually done a great job.
They've
As
invested
an
in their
announcer in IndyCar.
motorsports with AJ Allmendinger being a commentator. They've hired on some retired NASCAR drivers.
Parker Klingerman, I think.
Yeah, he's been doing the NASCAR weekly show for NBCSN.
Mike
now we need an
Trolko.
IndyCar weekly show. They
we're
got to
getting
do
there.
that too.
And until then, that's what this podcast is for.
Yeah, guys, we're going to be your IndyCar-ish kind of weekly show. We're going to talk about other stuff too, but I think I speak for the three of us. We probably know the most about IndyCar over the other forms of racing.
Well, any other news you want to cover tonight?
So this was kind of a weird. It was kind of weird how much attention it got, but NASCAR was positioning the numbers further back on the sides of the cars, and people are livid. And as an IndyCar fan, they change the numbers pretty much every year where they're going to be put, how big or small they're going to be. Like, I can't wait to see what they pull out of their ass this season, as far as weird changes to stuff like that. But the NASCAR fans have a really big problem with moving the numbers backwards, and I'm having a hard time figuring out why.
See, with Formula One, obviously I haven't been to a Formula One race since they came here back in like 2005 or 2006.
Yeah.
But you couldn't tell one car from the other from their teammates. Like, you had to know their helmets, and that was it.
You had the helmets, and then you have the camera on top of the roll bar, which is two different colors. I believe one is red, one is black for the number one, number two.
So if people really want to complain, go try to follow Formula One and let me know how that works out.
Yeah, but I mean, we're talking NASCAR here, and I don't think the numbers are getting any smaller or anything. They're just moving them slightly behind the driver
I don't
door.
understand the big problem with it.
I have not seen. What's the actual criticism of people? Has there been a factual complaint?
They're throwing a fit because it's not tradition to have the number like right in the middle of the door.
So why are they doing it?
So they have more space on the side of the car for a sponsor. Because back in the day, like right in front of the door, you had all those small logos that they had.
Sponsors.
And they don't have as much of that anymore, so they want more space for like a primary sponsor to have their logo on the sides of the cars, is what I
that makes
understand.
Sense.
I get it. I wonder if they'll ever go like the IMSA route with the... I'm just kind of surprised IndyCar
the small numbers on the windows or something.
Well, that, and also they have like the electronic like screen thing that says like the place the cars in. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I don't think they should do the numbers on the windows. I think one thing I will agree with is the cool thing about the NASCAR livery is the big number on the cars, both on the roof and on the sides. You don't see that really in any other form.
I mean, that's just part of NASCAR as much as, I mean, it's like chop the roof off the car and go open to a race.
That's what the fight comes down to, isn't it? It's all traditional.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a series that didn't go away from carburetors until like a year ago.
Yeah.
It's the same way with IndyCar fans and the aero screen.
Yeah, the engine's still on the wrong side of the IndyCar.
Yep. But the thing with me is the numbers aren't even like a different size. They're the exact same number. They just moved them further back.
It ain't familiar.
It's not familiar, kind of like how fuel injection was such a new idea like a year ago. But for me, like, I don't know why the NASCAR requires, like, as long as they have the right size of number on the side of the car, who cares where it's at? Teams should just work with their sponsors and decide how they want to create their livery as long as the numbers are displayed prominently on the side of the car. I think that'd be the best case, the win-win that they could do, but they're not because it's NASCAR and no one really knows why they make the decisions they do.
I mean, I kind of get it because you want it somewhat consistent because if they had it wide open, the numbers would be all over the place and it would look weird. I would kind of agree with that part.
It'd be more interesting.
But they are doing like Bubba Wallace's number. Is it technically 23 or is it technically 23 MXII or something?
Well, that's not good. That's
I think he's going with a 23.
Right, but it's actually the MX whatever after it.
And that'll probably be there as like a
11
quote-unquote sponsor look.
Okay.
So.
And I do know, like, when Pastrana was in NASCAR, his number was 99, and they put the 1 in front of it, but it was, like, grayed out, so his number was still technically 99, but when you looked at it, it was 199.
They've done that in IndyCar on, I want to say it was 2009, Alex Lloyd. Driving I think it was the pink car.
It was
it was like a number you could text and it would donate to charity. So his number was like 40504 or something.
Hunter Ray did something like that too for cancer research. He changed his number for that. I forget. He was number 1, but it had like 28 in it too.
Within it, yep.
Yeah.
Is that from when he won the championship?
Yes, that's why he was number 1 for the year.
Yeah.
But he kept his 28 within there. And he runs at 28.
Because that's like kind of, the number's kind of your branding as a driver too. And a team.
That is one thing car. I will say. I think Formula One has got right.
What?
A Formula One driver in their rookie season, they pick one number, and that number goes with them no matter.
But you can't
what
you
team.
can't
Well, it used
see
to
the
not be
numbers
like
on
that.
the cars, so it doesn't even
Before
matter.
it was numbers 1 through 20 or whatever.
The numbers are on the car, but now like Lewis Hamilton's 44.
Yep.
If he goes and decides next year he wants to drive for Williams, he takes number 44 with him instead of.
Well, you see, like I didn't even know that because they don't even put the numbers on the cars.
They're on there on the front
Yeah, they're
nose.
on there.
Like what? Like a tiny little
No,
2-inch.
if you
Big
tune,
enough.
2
I wouldn't know what his number was if it wasn't on the car.
if you tune in and watch a race, you might actually see them.
I've seen the show on Netflix, and I don't remember any of their numbers.
He spends too much on Netflix to pay for cable,
Yeah. Well,
Ask him a year from now when the series is released, and then I'll be able to answer that question for you.
Yeah, I can.
I think
I'm gonna not talk so much about Formula One because it's not something I full disclosure, not something I really know a whole lot
we'll
about.
get you to watch a race next year, and you might actually enjoy it.
Potentially.
He watches the highlights.
In my opinion, Formula One is not as action packed as IndyCar racing is.
Formula One, I don't know if
It's
you...
been a phenomenal year for Formula
Yeah.
One. I won't twist your
That's
arm, but
that's just my personal tastes. I have a ton of respect for Formula One. It's a really cool sport, and if the racing is good, I'll tune in. It's usually good, but sometimes you just have to pick and choose what you want to follow and invest your time in.
all right. Any more news?
I think that's it. I mean, honestly, I'm kind of proud of us guys that we got that much news out of pretty much nothing going on right now this time of year in the motorsports world. That's pretty, like, we're even past the silly season. Nothing's started back up again for the 2021 season. To talk that much about news in the motorsports world, I mean, we got to pat ourselves on the back right there. So, moving on. Those of you who may or may not be listening at this point in the podcast, we figured we'd kind of do a little,
I know I'm not.
this is who we are. So we are the Pitstop Power Hour, presented by Race 92. Race 92, those of you who may not be fully aware, it is a apparel brand. Race 92 is a vintage-inspired racing apparel brand specializing in celebrating vintage race culture and adapting to motorsports today. And they are the presenting sponsor. A couple of us in this room right now may or may not have some affiliations with the brand.
Maybe we should just throw it out there. Why the hell did you two want to start a clothing company?
Because everyone else is.
That's a good reason.
Well, really, I think the big thing that we wanted to do was kind of create motorsports apparel like the way we wanted to do it. Like, there's a lot of great stuff out there. I'm not going to take away from other brands, but we kind of wanted to focus more on styles and inspiration from the 80s and 90s, even though we do cover stuff like the Bobby Unser collection, like the shirt that Aaron's wearing right now. All the way up to even stuff going, well, I don't know if we have anything yet in the 2000s, but I think the biggest inspiration is the 80s and 90s. And that's kind of, in our opinion, that was kind of an underserved market. There's some of it out there, but we wanted to do it the Race 92 way. So we felt that we had something to bring to the table that may not be available at other places.
So a little bit of background on that. I mean, the idea really started, so I went to school for graphic design. So I'm like the design person. Jacob's more the business.
Hey, Aaron, tell them why you switched majors to graphic design.
Because I liked it better.
Or was it because you failed the first physics exam?
Well, if you're failing something, you're probably not a big fan of it. So that's why I wasn't a big fan of it.
Aaron, it worked out now. I'm glad you switched to graphic design, because if you didn't do that, we wouldn't be here.
We wouldn't
right
be
now.
sitting here right now.
And
so
if I
you're
didn't
welcome.
switch to finance, we wouldn't be here either.
That's true. So,
So
I'm the design.
those of you
person,
listening that
Jacob.
are still in school and you're failing, it's okay. You can become a podcaster and apparel brand part owner.
And maybe someday you'll make a couple dollars.
Yes,
maybe.
It's a great gig, guys. You should do it too.
And so, like I said, the idea really started several years ago. I wanted to do like shirt designs for like retired drivers. I reached out to a couple. No one responded. And then I had the opportunity to do some designs for Bobby Unser. That's when me and Jacob started talking, and we came up with the brand name Race 92 because we were both born in 92, and we both like the racing culture that the 90s represents.
Well, 92 is also like the middle of the era that inspires the brand, I would say, too.
And I actually was at the 1992 Indy 500. I was
Technically.
my mom was at the race, and so I was
Same
there.
with Calvin, right?
I was about 4 hours away. I actually missed it.
So you missed the race.
Were you? Wait a minute, was your mom at the race in '92?
Yeah, so I was there too.
See,
me and Jacob are both at the race.
I wanted to be there so bad. I decided that I was going to be born 2 months early and was born at about 6 a.m. on race day in 92. And my dad still won't forgive me for letting him miss the most exciting 500 in
Calvin,
years.
you're kind of for doing that to your parents.
Yeah, they tell me daily. So back to the clothes. Aaron, can you kind of tell us, like, for the listeners, what the designs are, kind of what feel they have?
Tell us about what some of your favorite designs are.
Yeah, so we do a lot of stuff. It's very generic towards open wheel racing. So, for example, the track record, Ari Lindike, the speed was 236.986.
Correct.
So we have a shirt, very generic shirt with that time on it, with the speed on it, and a race car on it. And then we're doing a lot of, so like Bobby Unser, we have the Bobby Unser collection. We also have the Roberto Guerrero collection, which is only, we started that a couple months ago with Roberto. So we have, I believe, 3 or 4 shirts. Roberto Guerrero.
So, for me, my favorite shirt, and by the way, race92.com, for anyone listening or watching the video, check it out. You can see all these collections on that website. My personal favorite from the Roberto Guerrero collection is the Pool Winner shirt. I have the white version of it, and the colors and the design just pops. Yep. It's a great-looking shirt.
And Jacob actually has part of our... Driver Threats shirts on?
Collection. Yeah, this is what year? You base these off of a year, right?
I think that's 1986.
The 86. So those of you who can see it, you might be familiar with the design. It's obviously inspired by the design. In no way are we affiliated with any of the original sponsors, but the overall livery and the look of it is kind of what we're going for.
If you know, you know.
Exactly. And I'd assume most people here are pretty big into racing, so you probably know what this is based off of or inspired from. So yeah, this is a 1986 design, so go check that out on race92.com. The Driver Threads collection, they're all over print, and they're quite nice, if I do say so myself.
Something else I think worth mentioning, I'll let you talk about it, Jacob, is who is David Land, and how are we associated with David Land?
So David Land has a YouTube channel, and he publishes probably 2 to 3, maybe 4 videos a week, typically what I'm seeing. And so we partnered with him. So we're doing his line of apparel. It's a David Land collection. So again, going to remind you again, go to race92.com and check it out. But yeah, we've been working with him on his collection. So go check out his channel on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search David Land, and all of his videos will show up. And go give those a watch if you haven't already.
After you finish the podcast.
After you finish the podcast, yeah. So after we can shamelessly plug our own brand. But go check out his collection on race92.com. Go check out his videos on YouTube. Those of you listening, you may already be familiar with David Land's YouTube channel. Whether or not, go check it out. Subscribe to his channel. Subscribe to this podcast. You'll get all the information you could ever possibly want.
We may have some designs coming up for the 24 Hours at Daytona. They're inspired by that, so stay tuned.
There's a teaser.
So you mentioned the website, race92.com. Anywhere else they can follow you? Instagram, Twitter, Facebook?
Yeah, we're on everything. So Twitter, everything, on all platforms, our username is Race92Racing. So twitter.com/Race92Racing, Facebook, Race92Racing, Instagram.
Race92Racing.
One more time?
Race92Racing.
Perfect. Okay.
All one word.
So
no spaces.
Full disclaimer, if you try to search the Pitstop Power Hour on any of those social media platforms, you will not see anything come up, or at least nothing that's affiliated with us. So all of our, social media posts related to this podcast will be through Race92 Racing, or at least for now. We'll see what happens, but that's where you can catch all the news, not just for the Race92, the brand, but the Pitstop Power Hour.
I guess that's the next question then. Moving on from the close, why a podcast? How do we decide that the three of us were going to sit down in the basement and talk about racing?
Because we do that every week anyways. We might as well record it.
Okay.
That's basically it. Like, as long as we've known each other, that's like pretty much the only thing we talk about.
The funny thing is, when me and Jacob started Race 92, we talked about the podcast thing very on, if you remember. It was kind of more of an idea, but we talked about it.
Kind of, but we didn't really have a legit
reason
to do it.
And that's when Calvin came along and it all kind of plugged together.
Calvin just kind of showed up, and here we are.
Because you need me for my knowledge of Formula One.
Exactly.
And your audio stuff, too.
Well,
that doesn't hurt
helps.
either. But yeah, basically,
I'm a giver. What can I say?
We've been hanging out for how many years now?
We all went to college together.
And we started as freshmen in 2011?
Yeah, let's not talk about how long ago that was. But that's coming up 10 years ago now. But every time I hang out, we talk racing anyways, so maybe we can throw some stuff out there and, kind of engage with the motorsports fan base, the motorsports community, because, we love racing just as much, if not more, than anyone else out there who's a fan of motorsports. So,
and really with our clothing brand.
So, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think on the various topics we talk about.
Can I finish?
Yes, you can finish now. I just had to do another shameless plug.
Thank you. So really, we wanted to be more than just a clothing brand. We wanted to be more than just a brand that released shirts. We're trying to be more like a lifestyle brand. So having a podcast is more than just selling shirts. So
back to the slogan I had earlier about Race 92 being a lifestyle brand.
Yep. Who came up with that slogan?
I don't know, Aaron.
All right. Before you two get into a fight here, what can people expect when they listen to this podcast? What's all it about?
I think the best way I can put it is you can expect us to provide our take on mostly current events going on in the motorsports industry. We would like to think that we can offer something a little bit different than what other podcasters could provide, but we will let people ultimately make that decision for us. But we feel like some of our takes could be a little bit different, or at least, just a little bit different.
We're different.
I don't think we're gonna. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna be exactly the same as other podcasts out there.
Different.
Yeah, so I think that's the best argument we can provide at this point, because I don't even know how this is going to end up.
Well, I'm excited.
I am too.
Should be fun.
Until I start reading some of those 1-star reviews we're going to be getting.
First one will be from me, don't worry. All right, guys. I think it's time for Jacob's favorite segment here.
Yeah, so it is time for this week's Hot Take, where we... Yay. Yeah. So the Hot Take segment is something where we kind of pose a question, or we kind of debate a topic, kind of a what if most of the time. We just kind of ask basically like shower thoughts almost for motorsports related topics, where we just we ask a hypothetical question and we debate it.
Hold on. What did you say? Shower thoughts?
Have you not heard that term before?
No.
Okay, well, go Google it after this. It's just...
I don't know if I want to.
It's hypothetical questions that aren't necessarily like trivia questions. It's just a hypothetical.
Okay, anyway, what did you pick for this week's Hot Take?
Okay, so kind of thinking about how this past season has gone, not just for IndyCar, but all the forms of racing. And we're going to really talk about this mostly in an IndyCar point of view, but I think this case could be argued for other forms of racing as well. Can we go faster now, considering the advancements that have been made in safety technology over the past few years, 5 years, maybe even 10 years?
Yes.
So, okay, Aaron.
So good discussion. Great. Okay.
So some of the pros that I have on my notes are the pros is I think there's going to be a lot of excitement from the fan perspective to see cars going as fast as they were, in the 90s, in the mid 90s, because that's when the track record at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway was last set. That record still stands, and it's almost 25 years later at this point. I think drivers and teams, I think the competition to be the one that breaks the record, I think could create a little bit more buzz in the pits. And I think the news. I think IndyCar, amongst other sports, I think that's something that they would like to advertise as part of their marketing is, hey, we're going faster than we ever have before. Some of the cons is faster necessarily better? Is it more marketable? Is the safe? I think one of the biggest ones is the safety technology. Is it there yet to allow for higher speeds? Because that's kind of been one of the biggest concerns over the past, I would argue, 20 years, is ensuring that these cars are as safe as they can be to do the speeds they're currently doing. And the other question is, what is the added expense to go a little faster, to start pushing those limits again?
And that's the part that I have the biggest pushback on.
Yeah, Calvin's the bean counter over here.
You're the businessman. You should appreciate this more than anybody. But
Going faster is an investment.
It's an investment, but it's
and the
a
return on the
trade-off.
investment would be worth it.
Is it though? Does anyone
Yes.
really care?
I do. I know a lot of
Anyone
people do.
besides Jacob Smith care?
I
Yes.
think, yeah, I agree. I think people do
And
care.
leave it in the comments.
Okay, this is where
Tell
this
us
is where I
that you
mute your
want
mic.
Indy cars to break the track record at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway again. Because it happened in 96. And yes, I was technically there at the track. I was like 4 years old. So I don't really remember the track record
You
being
don't remember
broken.
it at all.
No, I don't. So
Okay.
I want to see the track record get broken and actually be able to remember it.
You don't
Assuming-
remember things
assuming I
until
don't
you're
drink
like
too much
8
beer.
years old, I think.
So,
Yeah, pretty much.
as I think Aaron was getting to, the fans, the diehard fans like us, it'd be great to see that record broken. It would be great to see Scott Dixon or Marco Andretti or any young driver on the record sheet and break the record.
But regardless, we're going to go to the track, whether they're breaking the track record or not.
Exactly.
Well, that's because we're the diehard fans. But I can tell you, if you
Well-
watch old footage from qualifications and pole days from back in the day when there was a chance that the track record was going to get broken, it was almost as packed as it was on race day.
But was that because of the records or was that because of the times? There was not all these other entertainment options available. They had more star power in the form of Mario Andretti, Michael Andretti, Parnelli Jones. Name any one of those drivers from that era. We can name them all, but I don't even think you can get through the entire IndyCar field today.
I think I could.
It's
I think if they are back to pushing the limits on the track record, it will create a buzz. It will create a stir. More people will
It's
be
more
interested.
about the names.
It's about the names, and you had the great
Well,
Tom
that's the other thing,
Carnegie
too,
hyping the whole
is-
thing up.
Well, now you have Bob Jenkins doing it. At the track.
Oh,
Bob Jenkins and Dave Calabro do not have the same
You
appeal as
can't-
Tom Carnegie.
yeah.
It's because they weren't there as long as Tom Carnegie. Once the
I mean,
as
no,
they
okay.
have more
he
experience,
had
more
big-
time
I mean,
to.
They had
for
big
the
shoes to
fans.
fill.
You've
if they were
just
doing
lost
well.
your Indy 500 race card if
Why?
you even had one because you just said Tom Carnegie wasn't a big deal in so many words.
He was. What I'm saying is,
You're saying Bob Jenkins and Dave
Tom
Calabro
Carnegie
are just as good
was
as
the
Tom
announcer
Carnegie.
at the track for 60 years, so that gives you plenty of time to build up that reputation. Bob Jenkins and Dave Calabro have not been there long enough to kind of build that reputation.
Tom
Bob
Carnegie,
Jenkins kind of has because he
I
was
mean,
on radio.
it's a
and
new-
Tom Carnegie retired about 15 years ago, and Dave Calabro's
2006.
Dave Calabro's filled in ever since. Plus, he worked with Carnegie back in the day.
Yep.
So I
I
mean,
mean, he's replaced him, but he's never going to live up to the hype that Tom Carnegie.
But
60 years
how
from
many
now,
years
Nor
has
should he.
Dave Calabro been doing this compared to what Tom Carnegie?
he's at
'Cause
about 20 plus years. I
we
think.
only have memory of Tom Carnegie as the legend who has been doing it for all those years.
in 50 years from now, no one's going to
But when
say
Tom
Dave
Carne-
Calabro, the legend.
Tom Carnegie's first
they
10
will.
years, he was probably just considered another
Maybe.
announcer. And it just, over time, he developed that reputation, with his catchphrases like, and he's on it.
Mario's slowing on the backstretch.
Mario is slowing down.
Andretti is slowing down.
So I think, usually when IndyCar makes the news, there's usually a crash or something that they're talking about. This would give them something positive to cover in the regular mainstream news.
Something I think really big that's worth mentioning, kind of along that. Fernando Alonso, his first year at Indy 500 was 2017.
But
and if you
imagine-
remember when he did the testing, how many people watched the testing of it? It was just his car
Millions.
going around.
But
Millions.
imagine how much
And how many people
bigger-
watched the Texas IndyCar race?
But
A quarter of that.
imagine how much bigger that would be if he was going after the track record. Fernando Alonso, this world-renowned race car
It
driver,
wouldn't make a difference.
trying to break the record
The
at the
people
IMS.
that watch and want to watch are going to watch. the margin of people you're going to get from going for that record, I think, is small. It's going to be the people that are going to watch the race anyway.
Mm-hmm.
They might just now, qualifying's on. They might tune into it now. But that doesn't, it's a slow burn. And again, I come back to cost. To go faster costs more money.
We're running about, I think Marco's average was 233 and change.
Yeah.
The record was 236 and change.
Yeah.
No
We're
one cares.
only 3 miles an hour off. It won't be hard to get a little bit faster.
But the thing is,
one
those
cares.
extra...
Aaron, everybody cares.
An extra tenth of a mile is going to cost millions of dollars to somebody.
No, it won't.
Yes, it
Yes,
will.
it will.
Not if
You're the
smart.
businessman.
Not
You
if
of
you're
all
smart with
people
the
should
design
know
of the
this.
car.
I'm the engineer here. Go with the smart design.
It's easy for you to say it, but you
It
got to actually be
takes
able to do it.
Hours in the wind tunnel.
And I
hours
think-
of CFD time. Hours of design time.
You can talk the
These-
walk, but if you can't walk it,
Someone's got to pay for it, and right now,
Everything
one's
is done
willing.
with computers these days. It's not like you have to
And
make a bunch of prototypes and physically
Computing
test them.
takes money.
Not nearly as much as it would have back in the day.
No, but it still takes millions of dollars.
is all of our finances done with computers?
What?
You're in charge of our finances. Do you do that with all computers? Or do you have to do anything
Yeah,
manually?
and it's easy compared to
But
having
you
to
still have
physically
to
do
put
it by
the-
hand.
You still have to put the data into the computer, tell
Exactly.
it what to do, and that works easy in a finance world where you just put everything in Excel and it kind of does it for you. In the CFD world, you have to program so many parameters, design so many parts. Just this last fall, they were testing at the Speedway to make passing better, make the show better. And they had LiDAR range detectors on the cars they were testing. Those cost money. They take talented people to operate them,
Hey, Calvin,
to understand the data.
regardless of how fast or slow, racing will always cost money. So
Yes.
you might as well make a statement.
But then you're going to get those teams that are barely hanging on out of
Right.
the sport.
Would you okay, let's put it this way. Would you rather have 12 cars going 237 miles an hour or 40 going 233 and we have bumping and a great race?
I think if the lure of being in the record books is a thing again, I think the money will come. I think the support
I mean,
will be
it kind of
there.
has. But I think more than anything,
And
you need
as
the
we do get fast, have you noticed IndyCar's been getting more popular as the speeds have slowly increased over
It's
the
not
past
because
decade?
of the speed.
No,
though.
it's because first off,
Yes,
you got
it is.
Fernando Alonso, you're having Jimmy
People are going
Johnson coming
230
in.
miles
It's
an
about
hour
the
again.
names.
It's amazing.
It's
More about
like
the
Aaron said,
names.
It's Jimmy Johnson. It's Fernando Alonso. It's Marco Andretti.
Okay, so on
Because
that
they were
argument,
getting-
more drivers, more of these famous drivers will want to compete in the Indy 500 if their
Okay.
names can be in the record
but they
books.
Let's do
don't.
this.
Jimmy Johnson doesn't want to.
Who was the biggest name
Because
in
he
the Indy
can't break
500?
the track record.
Who-
If he had a chance to break the track record,
No one would care.
he
Who
would be
was-
more interested
okay.
to do it.
What drivers were in 2012 Indy 500?
Do what?
You're not going to. I mean, look at the
Dario
drivers that were in
Franchitti won the
2012.
race.
I
Takuma
understand
Sato,
that.
Did you see his
But you
bonsai
didn't have-
move on the last lap?
You didn't have any
Who
big
finished
names
third?
back then.
Well, second.
No one cares about who finishes second.
But it's the big names.
Yeah, just like no one cares about the
But-
speeds.
Scott Dixon, by
so
the way.
who set the track record in 1996?
96?
Yeah, the qualifying track record.
I don't know because no one cares.
Yes, you do know, Aaron. You're just doing this to...
The track
Argue
record was
against me.
97.
It was 96. Look it
For
up.
Lion Dyke?
Yes, it was Lyondike who got the qualification.
I'm second guessing
the
myself.
fastest four-lap. Look it up, guys. This is... You guys should be ashamed of yourselves. We're doing a
Okay.
motorsports podcast, and you guys don't even know who set the track record in 1996.
That just proves our point, I think.
I think you guys are doing this on purpose to just...
Okay. Well,
Oh, no, he is right. I thought it was 97 for his
I
second.
thought it was
Everyone
96.
knows that it was Ari Lyondike who set the track record.
I never-
four-lap average track record in 96.
Who held it before him?
I don't know. Doesn't matter. What matters is the fastest. Just like no one knows who finished second in
But then-
almost any given year of the 500.
Not just the cost of capital, the money to make this go faster. There's that human element. I don't want to see drivers get hurt. No
Right.
one does. We've seen too much of that. And the risk of going incrementally faster for what you said is the reward of being in the record books. I
think the technology is there for safety and stuff.
But we've seen it's still not quite there.
It will never be fully there.
It will never be. But there's that whole unnecessary risk.
The argument here is, for this argument, is the ratio of safety versus speed the right formula to be able to start pushing the boundaries again?
And I don't think we're there yet.
I think with the windscreens, I think we are ready to start pursuing those faster speeds.
I mean, I think a
'Cause we've
mile
seen
an
that
hour or
with
something would be okay, but we're not just going to jump up to the track record in a year.
No, it's going to take time. They're coming out, was it 2022, 2023?
2023, they are unleashing their new hybrid KERS-based engine, which will have some added weight. I don't know that it will, but it will add power and a slightly green element to the Indycar. They are keeping the same chassis.
That
for the
alone
first year.
could, after they have that design for 5 years, 10 years, whatever the formula is down the road, this new design could be the one that starts pushing those limits again.
Or it could reset us back to that 225 mark.
Like it did in 97 after the 96 record was set.
That one, or in 2012 when we first launched these chassis.
Yeah, those things were turds.
I hate to break it to you, but it's still the same chassis.
It is, but they figured it out. They've had many years now to
They've refined the aero
further
and
refine
things on it as well.
So I think IndyCar, they're going to need at some point to come out with a new car based overall. And so should this new car be able to, at least maybe down the road, be able to push the limits and pursue that track record again? And I think we're ready. I think it's time. It's been too long since the track record has been touched or has even gotten close to it. I think it's time.
Okay, so in final thoughts, you think it's time. Aaron, what are your final thoughts?
So there's two questions here.
My thoughts don't matter.
The first question is, given all the technology we have nowadays, can we pursue the track record? And then the second question is, should we start pursuing that track record?
I think we can cautiously and slowly, but we probably shouldn't.
I agree. I think technology, with what we have, we can start cranking things faster. We can go faster. We could turn that boost up to 11, and we could hit 260 down the straightaway if we really wanted to. But again, I don't think right now is the time, because of the cost of financial capital, human capital, the risk to the reward is not there for me yet.
Okay, so I think I agree with both of you that we can go faster. The technology is there. But I also think that we should go faster, with the caveat that it's not going to happen in 1 year, not even 2 years or 3 years. It's going to have to be a progression of development of a new car. And that is already on the horizon. And I hope that this new car can get close to that record again. This new car will be kind of a step in that right direction. I think we should be trying to go faster. That's what racing is all about, is going faster in the end.
It's about winning.
Okay.
And part of that is going faster than the other guys. So I'm going to disagree with you guys there. I think we should start to pursue going faster, but we do it, as Aaron said, cautiously. It's going to take time, but I think it's time now, because the only thing they've worried about this past couple decades is maintaining the speeds. I think it's time to shift our focus towards taking what we have now and increasing the speeds incrementally, not all at once.
All right.
So I think we're going to wrap up the hot take. So I was outvoted on if we should go faster.
We wrapped up the hot take.
The Pitstop Power Hour podcast.
You're over
has
veto
decided
at this
that
point.
We can go faster, but I was outvoted, and all y'all are not ready. Don't think we should go faster.
I don't think anyone's
right.
ready.
Now we're moving on to one of our favorite segments in the show. Aaron, take it away.
Now it's time for the pit stop challenge.
Oh, come on.
Well,
Put a little bit more energy into it.
Well, maybe if you were queued up when you're supposed to be, I would have. Now it's
I'm
time
ready.
for the pit stop challenge. The average IndyCar pit stop takes roughly 10 seconds, maybe a little quicker. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But anyway, the average pit stop takes around 10 seconds. So I have come up with 3 questions that we will be reading off.
Potentially 3. It's the best 2 out of 3 challenge.
Yeah, so-
Aaron, can you explain that to
Yeah.
those listening and watching?
I was
He
going
was
to.
trying until you interrupted him.
Thank you, Calvin.
Well, I had to specify
So we're
because
going
you
to
already made a mistake.
Yep. So what was my mistake?
It may not be 3 questions. It may only be 2, depending on.
Well, thank you all for listening to this week's episode of the Pit Stop Power.
Come on,
Hour.
Aaron. Roll. Keep it rolling. Let's go.
So I'm going to ask 3 questions.
It's our first episode.
Possibly 3, possibly 2. We'll find out. But anyway, if Jacob gets the first 2 right, then we'll be done. But we're going to ask 3 questions. Whoever gets the best out of 3 will get a point, and we'll keep track of that throughout our podcast season.
I think throughout the
for
next
the year. And then at the end of the year, we'll declare a winner. So let's make sure we keep track of this and not forget to write down who wins each week. But maybe the loser has to do something stupid at the end of the year, or like losing a bet.
Maybe the loser gets kicked off the podcast. All right, Aaron.
All right.
There it is.
Let me get my little timer ready to go here.
We don't need a timer. Just count it down.
All right.
Yeah, because we're not going to get these answers in 10 seconds anyways.
Who is the oldest Indy 500 winner?
It's Danica.
Who was the oldest when they won the 500 to specify?
Was it
The Allens are senior, no?
Juan Montoya?
Calvin wins.
What?
Allens are senior.
Damn it. But good to know.
Okay. Question number 2.
Come on, give me one that I know, Aaron.
What year was AJ Foyt's rookie year?
1958.
There's Jacob.
Boom.
So now we get to do our potentially 3 questions.
The tiebreaker.
Let's see here.
Hold
try
on,
Rotman.
let me find the drum roll. I'm still learning our soundboard.
It's the one labeled drum roll.
All right, now time for the tiebreaker.
All right. Who was the first driver to put a mirror on their car?
Ray Haroon, 1911.
It's Danica.
Jacob wins.
Boom.
1 point for Jacob. I feel like we need to put a board or something so we can keep track.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do something, but for now we'll just write it down in your notebook or something, or on your hand. Yeah. Well, did we cover everything in our show notes? We didn't really have. So basically, everyone listening, we usually have 2 long form segments, and in our hot take this week kind of became our second long form
I
segment.
got one little thing we can kind of finish up with. What are we looking forward to in 2021?
Going to races.
Going to races.
I think us, on behalf of every single race fan, can say that being able to go to a live race event, and hopefully with all the social distancing restrictions being lifted too, so you can just focus on the racing and not worry about yellow shirts yelling at you or anything like that, any more than they already do. So I would say I'll go ahead and start outside of that. I'm looking forward to seeing how the IndyCar series goes this year. Seeing how Jimmy Johnson does against the IndyCar crowd. I think he'll have a little bit of a learning curve, but he's a very talented driver, so it's going to be interesting to see how quickly he kind of catches on. And also Elio Castroneves going to a new team this year, seeing how he adapts to a new team. This is the first non-Penske team that he's driven for in IndyCar. So those are kind of 2 things I'm looking forward to seeing how they pan out in the IndyCar series. Something else is I am looking forward to the Supercross series starting up in January. That's kind of one of the first racing seasons to begin. It's kind of a winter series, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how the Supercross series pans out. We're based out of Indianapolis, and this year there are 3 Supercross rounds in Indianapolis, so I'm really excited, looking forward to hopefully going to at least one of those, because they will have some fans with limited capacity at these races. As of right now, that could change.
All right.
Yes, it could.
They made up a new strain of this coronavirus. So
All right, Aaron. What are you interested in?
Well, like I said, going to races, but I think it'll be interesting to see, how Jimmy Johnson does. And I think there's a lot of changes during this silly season of drivers with new teams. Alex Palou in the Ganassi car, that'll be interesting.
I forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me, Aaron.
Pato O'Ward had a very good year last year, so see what he does this year. Renus VK. I think there's a lot of exciting things.
Yeah, certainly IndyCar. I know
It's on the up.
for me personally, there's some interesting things. NASCAR's running more road course races. Those are always exciting. On a personal level, nothing's been formally announced, but some people I'm friends with and I've watched grow up on the karting world are hopefully running in the USF 2000 series on their way to the road to Indy. So it's kind of cool to see things like that happening. And yeah, it's going to be an exciting year.
Yeah, I think I speak on behalf of all of us here. We are definitely looking forward to the upcoming racing season. And we hope to see some of you guys out there at the races, assuming that all goes well with these vaccines and stuff, and we can kind of get back to some form of normalcy after all this. But with some of the innovations that they came up with during this year's weird season. So I think that's about all we have for this week.
Let's wrap it up.
All righty. Well, that wraps up this week for the Pitstop Power Hour presented by Race 92. If you like the show, please rate and subscribe. And if you didn't, well, let's just pretend that's never happened.
Like a bad Tinder date.
Exactly, Aaron. Sound good? For the rest of you, we'll see you next week.